First Minister, you said this week that we're reaching the limits of devolution and that we need independence to improve living standards. Does that mean that there's just nothing else to do in the Scottish Parliament?
Well, of course, there are changes that can be made in the Scottish Parliament. The government has just brought forward legislation on housing. We've just successfully passed legislation in relation to the role of victims within the criminal justice system. So, of course, there is work to be done within the devolved Scottish Parliament. But the issue, the central issue that is affecting people just now is the stagnation in their living standards, and that's where the Scottish Parliament is struggling to do more to lift living standards.
Are you struggling?
Well, of course, if you look at the steps that we've taken, we've just taken another step with the abolition of peak rail fares, another attempt to try to support people's living standards and their costs. We've got council tax, it's much lower in Scotland than the rest of the United Kingdom. We've got free prescriptions, we've got free eye tests, we've got free university tuition that's available. So we've got a whole range of measures, but people's standard of living is not rising. And that's because of strategic decisions made in the UK about Brexit and about austerity that is depressing the living standards of people in this country.
And you don't have the powers to fix that in the Scottish Parliament.
Exactly. And then if you take a specific example on child poverty, my government is successfully reducing child poverty in Scotland while it is rising in the rest of the United Kingdom. And the Labour government is going to take some steps that will increase child poverty. So that's another example where living standards will be under threat because of the UK government. And that's why independence is necessary.
Going into an election next year, it's not much of a slogan to say vote SNP for more managed decline.
Well, but that's not what our slogan will be. Our slogan.
But that's essentially what you're saying. There's nothing you can do to turn this round. Well, you can just manage the decline.
No, what I'm saying is that we have an optimistic alternative, which is independence. And that's
but within devolution.
No, but look.
But let's stick with that for a moment. Within the bounds of devolution, you say it's just managed decline.
What I'm saying is that we will do everything we can to protect and promote the interests of people in Scotland. We do that. We're doing that on child poverty, where child poverty is falling in Scotland when it's rising in the rest of the UK. We're doing that on literacy and numeracy, where we're at record levels of literacy and numeracy in our schools. We're building more affordable houses per head of population than is the case in other parts of the United Kingdom. So of course we will strive to do as much as we can within the powers of devolution. But I'm just being candid with people that if we want to have an improvement in the standard of living of people in Scotland, we've got to have independence.
You're talking about trying to get a majority, as every party should, at a general election. But in the 6 elections to the Scottish Parliament's happened once, are you just setting yourself up to fail?
What I'm setting myself up to is to provide a credible and tangible route to deliver Scottish independence. Because what we saw in 2011 was that when the SNP got an overall majority in the Scottish Parliament, Westminster had no alternative but to engage with us on a pathway to independence through a democratic referendum. And I want to make sure I can deliver independence, so I've got to have a credible pathway, which means we've got to have an approach agreed on all sides. That's what getting a majority in the Scottish elections next May is all about.
But it prejudges your conference debate on this tomorrow, doesn't it?
Well, that's the position I'm setting out to the party conference, and that's the one that I think is credible.
If the conference votes for something else tomorrow, you might have to change it.
Well, what I'm saying is that for me, the route, the only route that will deliver a tangible and credible approach to Scottish independence is for us to get an SNP majority in the Scottish Parliament.
If the party votes for something else tomorrow, would you have to change that position?
Well, what I'm simply saying is that that's the position that I think is necessary to
But
be
if it
taken forward.
changes tomorrow, you would change?
Well, we've got a democratic debate, and let's have this conversation in the light of the democratic debate.
You're about to go into winter in the NHS. It's been very, very difficult all year. How are you going to cope with winter when the junior doctors are currently balloting for industrial action?
Well, I obviously want to avoid that. I think we've
you can't avoid them balloting. They say they're going to ballot for industrial action.
Well,
they say that you've reneged on a pay deal.
Well, I would contest that. We've set out the steps that we're taking to improve the pay of resident doctors. That's about us making sure that we make the investments consistent with the resources that we've got available to strengthen the National Health Service. Now, I think the pay offer on the table just now is a perfectly credible and acceptable pay offer. It's comparable to what's been put in place for other health service workers.
The crucial thing is they don't think it is, and they're balloting for industrial action.
Well, we'll obviously talk to the resident doctors to try to avoid...
Do you think that you can resolve this?
Well, we'll work to resolve it. We'll do everything we possibly can do, but we cannot spend money we don't have.
Accident emergency is difficult right across the country. Just down the road from here at Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, it's only reached 50% 1 week of this year. That's not good enough, is it?
It's not, and we want to have accident and emergency turnaround times much faster. It's about making sure that we take all of the steps in the hospital system to make sure that that can be possible by reducing delayed discharge. We've got 97% of patients leave NHS care without any delay to their discharge. So we need to get that number higher so that we're making the accident emergency system work easier, so that we've got more capacity to accommodate
when can we
patients.
expect to see that? Because that's what you've been saying for quite a while,
well,
and it's really hard to deliver, clearly.
We're dealing with two significant factors that affect us in this respect. One is the continuing implications of COVID, where essentially our health service was paused for 2 years. It takes time to recover from that, and we're expanding the resources, we're expanding the procedures that are undertaken to ensure that that's the case. But the other thing is that we're dealing with a population that has got more older people in the population, and there's more frailty within the population. So a number of the people that present to accident emergency need more care, which takes more time than is the case.
That's been the case for several years at least in
Well,
Scotland.
I'm simply narrating the fact that that is the challenge that we're dealing with, and we're trying to work to ensure that we have swifter turnaround times in accident and emergency. We're succeeding in reducing waiting times. We're succeeding in increasing the number of GPs that are available in the healthcare system. We're succeeding in increasing the number of operations and procedures
it doesn't feel like
that
a
are
lot of
undertaken.
patients.
Well, I
If
understand
people are
that.
having to wait several hours for an ambulance, as was discussed in First Minister's questions recently, if they then have to wait several hours again in accident emergency, it doesn't feel like things are improving.
I totally understand that, but I'm simply narrating the improvements that we are
They don't want you
delivering.
to narrate it, they want you to fix it.
And that's what we're doing.
Will it be fixed by the election?
Well, obviously,
Do you reckon you're going to hit a 95% A&E target by the election?
we'll
ever again?
We will be working as hard as we can to make the necessary improvements in the National Health Service.
What about the failure of the decontamination unit in Grampian? That must be a big concern to you.
It is a concern to us, and obviously NHS Grampian is working at pace to resolve that, and the Health Secretary is meeting NHS Grampian on Monday to assess the progress that has been made, and also to assess the steps that have been taken with the extra supervision we've put in place to make sure that NHS Grampian meets the needs of people in the north east of Scotland.
Driving into Aberdeen today, there's a lot of saltires on lampposts. That's not to do with your conference, though.
Obviously, there's been, I've always felt the saltire has been a flag of welcome and inclusion in Scotland, and that's how I've always felt about it. I think that's how most people feel about it. I certainly think that's how most people waving the saltire at the Scotland game last night felt about it as well. And that's what matters to me, and I'm not going to have the saltire redefined by anyone else.
But they've perhaps redefined it or taken it
Well, I'm
for
simply-
their own reasons.
well, I'm
How do
simply-
you feel about that?
Well, I'm simply saying that I think the
Does it annoy you?
saltire. I think the saltire is a flag of inclusion and welcome. It's a
but-
flag of celebration.
But
It's
does
a flag.
this
It's a
change
flag.
in the-
It's a
does
flag.
this change in the use of it annoy you?
Well, it's not. It's not something that I approve of. What I'm indicating to you is the saltire is a flag that represents the coming together of people in Scotland, and none of us should desert from that territory.
Would you like to see more immigration in Scotland?
I think we've got real problems in the size of our working age population. I can't speak to a sector of the economy, whether it's construction or hospitality or food and drink or even many aspects of our social care sector, where there isn't a need for there to be more people to be available. We've got very low unemployment in Scotland today. So we need to make sure that we have a strong working age population, and we need migration to support
How
that.
many more people do you need a year?
Well, that's difficult to be specific about, but what I think we can judge is that the debate that we have on immigration just now is a negative debate about immigration. It's a damaging debate about immigration because it doesn't reflect the economic realities of the situation we face.
First Minister, thanks very much.